policy. Introduction. Budgetary policy plays a pivotal role within the broader framework of economic policy. It encompasses the set of measures and strategies that governments employ to manage public finances effectively, particularly by regulating revenue generation and expenditure allocation. At its core, budgetary policy aims to achieve various economic objectives, such as fostering economic growth, maintaining macroeconomic stability, reducing social inequalities, and ensuring the efficient utilization of resources. One of the primary functions of budgetary policy is to maintain fiscal equilibrium, wherein government revenues match or exceed expenditures over time. This balance is crucial for ensuring the sustainability of public finances and preventing excessive debt accumulation, which could undermine economic stability in the long run. Achieving fiscal balance often involves making strategic decisions regarding taxation, government spending priorities, and borrowing levels. Moreover, budgetary policy serves as a powerful tool for macroeconomic stabilization. During periods of economic downturns or recessions, governments may implement expansionary fiscal policies, characterized by increased government spending and/or tax cuts, to stimulate aggregate demand and boost economic activity. Conversely, during periods of overheating or inflationary pressures, contractionary fiscal policies involving reduced spending and/or tax hikes can help curb inflation and prevent overheating. Additionally, budgetary policy plays a crucial role in addressing social disparities and promoting equitable development. Through targeted spending programs and social welfare initiatives, governments can redistribute income and wealth, provide essential public services, and invest in human capital development, thereby fostering inclusive growth and reducing poverty and inequality. Furthermore, budgetary policy is instrumental in supporting long-term economic objectives, such as infrastructure development, education, healthcare, and research and development. By allocating resources to strategic sectors and investment projects, governments can enhance productivity, competitiveness, and innovation, laying the foundation for sustained economic growth and prosperity. In essence, budgetary policy serves as a cornerstone of economic governance, shaping the fiscal landscape and influencing the overall trajectory of economic development. Its effectiveness hinges on prudent financial management, sound decision-making, and alignment with broader economic goals and priorities. As economies continue to evolve and face new challenges, the importance of robust and adaptive budgetary policies remains paramount in driving sustainable and inclusive economic growth. Main part: budgetary policy is one of the branches of economic policy that involves influencing the state of public finances by controlling the revenues and expenditures of the state. According to Winiarski's book, Economic Policy, budgetary policy can have various objectives, such as maintaining budgetary equilibrium, improving macroeconomic stability, reducing social inequalities, or stimulating economic growth. Budgetary policy involves selecting sources and methods of collecting public revenues, as well as directions and methods of implementing public expenditures to achieve social and economic goals established by relevant public authorities. Public revenues are used to provide specific public services and protect existing political and institutional arrangements, as well as to promote the development and protection of specific sectors and forms of economic activity, and to implement specific changes in the economy. As part of budgetary policy, the state may undertake various actions, including determining and implementing public expenditures, including investments in infrastructure, education, healthcare, or social security, setting the level of taxes and other public charges, controlling the level of government debt, managing public funds, including pension funds, supporting entrepreneurship and innovation through preferential tax treatment or granting subsidies. Budgetary policy is of great importance for the functioning of the economy because it affects the level of economic activity, employment, inflation, and other factors. Therefore, it is important for budgetary policy to be well thought out and implemented purposefully and effectively. Functions of fiscal policy. Allocative function involves allocating funds for various purposes, such as education, healthcare, or infrastructure. The aim of this function is to ensure an adequate level of access to public goods. Stabilization function involves influencing the level of economic activity to reduce fluctuations in the business cycle. This may include changes in public spending, taxes, or social transfers. Redistributive function involves regulating the distribution of income in society through taxes, social transfers, and other means. The aim of this function is to reduce social inequalities. All these functions are interrelated and may mutually influence each other. For example, changes in public spending can affect both the allocative and stabilization functions. Similarly, changes in taxes can affect both the redistributive and stabilization functions. According to Winiarski's book, Economic Policy, budgetary policy can be divided into two categories, active and passive. Passive budgetary policy involves reacting to changes in the economy by automatically adjusting public expenditures and taxes to the level of income. For example, during economic slowdowns, tax revenues decrease, leading to a decrease in public spending and thus limiting the government's influence on the economy. Passive budgetary policy is usually used to maintain budgetary equilibrium and economic stability. Active budgetary policy involves purposefully and consciously influencing the economy through changes in public expenditures and taxes. For example, the government may increase spending on public investments to stimulate economic growth, or introduce tax incentives for businesses to increase private investment. Active budgetary policy is used to achieve specific goals, such as stimulating economic growth, reducing unemployment, or improving the external balance. Both categories of budgetary policy have their advantages and disadvantages. Passive budgetary policy may be more stable and less risky, but may limit the government's influence on the economy. On the other hand, active budgetary policy can lead to achieving specific goals, but may be riskier and require greater financial resources. It is important to choose budgetary policy tools appropriately and use them depending on the economic situation and policy goals. Budget deficit is a situation in which government expenditures exceed its revenues in a given period. Budget deficits can have several negative effects on the economy, such as increasing government debt, raising the costs of servicing public debt, reducing investor confidence in the country's financial stability, or limiting the possibilities of implementing economic policy. Actions to reduce the deficit may include increasing taxes, limiting public spending, issuing government bonds to raise funds. Some economic theories assume that budget deficits can also have positive effects. For example, during economic crises when the government needs to increase public spending to rescue businesses and jobs. However, budget deficits are usually considered exceptional situations, and the government should aim to reduce them in periods of stable economy. It is important for the government to conduct budgetary policy responsibly and ensure budgetary equilibrium. In the case of budget deficits, it is also essential to manage public debt to avoid increasing its costs and limiting the possibilities of implementing economic policy. Expansion. Budgetary policy operates within various contexts beyond its role in economic policy. Here are some additional contexts in which budgetary policy plays a significant role. 1. Political context. Budgetary decisions are inherently political as they reflect government's priorities, values, and ideologies. Political considerations often influence budget allocations, with policymakers seeking to balance competing demands from different interest groups and constituents. Political dynamics can also impact the formulation and implementation of budgetary policies, as governments may face pressures from various stakeholders, including legislators, interest groups, and the general public. 2. Social context. Budgetary policy has profound social implications, as government spending and taxation directly affect citizens' well-being and quality of life. Social considerations such as equity, social cohesion, and access to essential services play a crucial role in shaping budget priorities. Governments may allocate resources to address social challenges such as poverty, unemployment, healthcare, education, housing, and social welfare, aiming to improve overall social outcomes and promote inclusive development. 3. Environmental context. In recent years, there has been growing recognition of the environmental dimensions of budgetary policy. Governments are increasingly integrating environmental considerations into budget decisions to address pressing environmental challenges such as climate change, pollution, biodiversity loss, and resource depletion. This includes funding for environmental protection, conservation efforts, renewable energy initiatives, sustainable infrastructure projects, and climate adaptation measures. 4. Global context. Budgetary policy is influenced by global economic trends, international commitments, and geopolitical dynamics. Globalization has interconnected economies, making them susceptible to external shocks and spillover effects. Governments may adjust their budgetary policies in response to global economic conditions, trade agreements, international aid commitments, and geopolitical developments. Additionally, international organizations, such as the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and the World Bank, may provide policy advice and financial assistance, shaping countries' budgetary decisions. 5. Technological context. Technological advancements and digital transformation are increasingly shaping budgetary policy and public finance management. Governments are leveraging technology to improve budget transparency, efficiency, accountability, and service delivery. This includes adopting digital platforms for budget planning, execution, monitoring, and evaluation, as well as utilizing data analytics, artificial intelligence, and blockchain technology to enhance fiscal governance and decision-making processes. 6. Crisis context. During times of crisis, such as natural disasters, pandemics, economic recessions, or financial crises, budgetary policy assumes heightened significance. Governments may implement emergency budget measures, such as stimulus packages, relief programs, and austerity measures, to address immediate challenges, stabilize the economy, and protect vulnerable populations. Crisis contexts often require flexibility, agility, and innovative approaches in budgetary policymaking to respond effectively to evolving circumstances and mitigate adverse impacts. In summary, budgetary policy operates within multifaceted contexts encompassing political, social, environmental, global, technological, and crisis-related dimensions. Understanding these diverse contexts is essential for policymakers and stakeholders to formulate effective budgetary strategies that address complex challenges and promote sustainable development.